took my mother's oldest grandchild from her, and for that I can never forgive you. I hope you can deal with what you've done. Jeffery, I hate you! What's your name,
This defendant will never again see freedom.
Crimeatorium translates to a place where crime resides. Your host, Madeline, guides the listener through sensitive topics such as murder, domestic abuse, child neglect, missing persons, and more. Take the next step and subscribe to Crimeatorium via your favorite podcast platform. Crimeatorium is also available on YouTube. Join me in the place where crime resides.
Almost always after I was either physically or in some other way harassed by bullies.
Rise the murder, bring your light to injustice, bring your light to the violence, no more silence. So many stories of innocent lives that they hide. Rise the
murder. It's easier for me to get back.
Now lean back. But hey, welcome back to Bros of Murder. I think we're like almost balls deep into the season.
Dolls beep.
Yeah, we're not quite there. This is like episode 3.
Yeah.
But I think it's like 6 for us we recorded. But hey, this week I am Brooke Thompson from
Breaking Up Apparently.
Yeah, from what?
Oh yeah, you're cutting out hard.
Yeah.
Me?
So everyone, for us, we record our audio separately, and Andre is straight tripping right now.
How is it better now?
I can't hear anything that he's saying. Or excuse me, Brooke Thompson is tripping out.
All right, is that better?
I think I can hear you now.
Robert, is that better?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Okay, I don't know what happened. But yeah, this week I'm Brooke Thompson from Flavor of Love. Almost said Bad Girls Club because Robert confused me with Bad Girls Club earlier.
I'm sorry.
I love Bad Girls Club.
Battle. I am Battle, aka New York, about to spit in someone's face.
I'm Robert. This week I'm a cured egg yolk. An egg yolk left in some salt, gets all hard.
Like me.
Shredded over some pasta. It's delicious.
There you go.
I've never had that before. That sounds pretty delicious, though.
That's high in sodium.
Oh, very much so. But if you don't like too much salt in your pasta, and it kind of melts like cheese almost. It's weird.
Is it good? I've never tried it. I would definitely.
Yeah, I just made it for the first time, and me and my partner really loved it.
Nice.
Wait, so you just cracked an egg open and put salt in it?
So you make like a bed of salt, and you make a little divot in it, and then you separate the egg yolk out of egg white.
Okay.
Then you put the egg yolk into the divot, and then you cover it up with salt again, and you leave it for a few days, and it sucks out all the moisture, and you get this like little salt puck that you wash off in the sink, and you're left with just the yolk.
That's pretty dope. I would definitely try it.
Yeah, and in the salt mix that you make, throw in whatever spices you want, and it'll absorb some of the flavor.
Ooh, la la.
Yeah, we did like a chili powder and garlic powder thing.
Chef's kiss. But this episode is all about conspiracy. Conspiracy. See you guys for the put the vocal back.
Now you don't have to add it.
I don't have to. Yeah, no. So, Battle, you said you want to go second because yours is very long. That's what she said.
Oh, it's longer, yeah.
Yeah. Slonger.
It's not about penises. Don't worry, everyone.
Damn it.
Mine's a little about penises.
Is it?
Yay.
Allegedly. Potentially. It's unclear.
Allegedly.
So yeah, I'll go first. And mine is about Nipsey Hussle, the rapper.
Yeah.
And the weird conspiracies, the weird hotep conspiracies surrounding his death. Well, murder.
Yo, brother.
Let's get into it.
It's time for us to start talking the real, man. We've been sugarcoating too much. We've got to start calling everything out for what it is. Start talking the real. Yes, you're gonna have people turn their backs, but it's time for us to keep it real. Just keep talking that real, bro. Do what you do. I know what you do, so keep doing that. Talk the real. Talk the things, them.
The GP will see you now.
Look, I don't wanna cause no problems. I just wanna live my life, but I keep on hearing about nonsense. Me and my dons ain't mobsters, but you know when you see imposters, we know how to read them faces, same way you know how to read them comments. If you wanna talk, let's talk, but around here, make sure you walk and your talk is constant. Hey, I seen it all before I heard chat that they all adore. 1 week looking like they all aboard. Next day, they don't even walk the walk.
Now, Nipsey Hussle was an American rapper, an activist, and entrepreneur. He was not only known for his music, but his entrepreneurship. He had a clothing store founded with one of his friends, and he also gave a lot back to his community. He wanted to focus on giving back solutions and inspiration to young black men like himself. He was against gun violence, like actually denounced it in his music, his influence in his community work, which makes his murder that much more fucked up. Funded improvements to his neighborhood, the schools in his neighborhood, and spent time with students, also participating in panels about growing up in the area and being influenced by gang culture, which like a lot of young black men deal with, especially like in low-income areas.
Yeah.
It's people make it seem like it's easy to, you know, pull your fucking bootstraps up and get a good job, but if you grow up in like that kind of area,
I hate that expression so much. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps is so dumb. It's such a bad expression.
Yeah, and it's so easy to fall into those like crowds and pitfalls, especially when like it's all you have and
right,
all you know.
I hate when people say everyone has the same opportunity, and it's like, no, they don't. Like, it's not.
No.
Like I live in New Jersey, and like look at me and my cousins just being a state away. Our lives are completely different just based on the area that we grew up in. And like it's just simple as that.
I didn't know that about Nipsey Hussle though. I never heard about his like community involvement. That's awesome.
Yeah, a lot of people really don't know about it. You know, a lot of his work mainly focused on Crenshaw in California, which is also a weird reference to Flavor of Love, because in season 2. There is a woman who got into a fight and said, after she beat up the chick, said that she's from Crenshaw, and that just became a meme, and I would never forget that.
I've never seen that.
I'm gonna send it to you. Like she beat up this girl over like who gets to have the bed. Like beat the girl up, and
Which girl was it?
I think her name was Smiley.
I remember
this is season
Smiley.
2.
Smiley was a bad bitch. I think Smiley was one of my favorite people. She had really big eyes too.
So she beat her up, and as she's like, the girl's sitting there crying, the other girl who beat her up is like praying. She's like, "Please God help me not beat this bitch ass again." Right in front of the poor girl. And I was like, "That's a move. That's a fucking move." Oh. Like, Lord, save this bitch from me. Okay, so back to that. So he mainly focused on improving Crenshaw because through his experience in his life, there's a lot of people in that area who would benefit from communal workshops and help like that. He really wanted to give back to the youth and also provided money for science, technology, and mathematics classes at a center there. So he really was just, you know, giving back as much as he can. Then I get to his murder. On March 31st, 2019, Hussle was shot at least 10 times in a parking lot of a store. The store being Marathon Clothing in Los Angeles. The gunshot wounds included a shot to his right chest, a shot that entered into his abdomen near his navel, which severed his spine, a gunshot wound to his right side of his back that penetrated his chest and stuck into his lung, and a gunshot wound that entered the back, like top part of his scalp. 2 others were wounded in the shooting.
Jeez.
Yeah, altogether, there were 3 victims, and they all got transported to the hospital. And Hussle was the only one who died. He died at 33 at 3:55 p.m. that afternoon. So now, the rapper GBO Gitson claimed that he was the one who killed Nipsey. He did this on Instagram Live, like any other fucking rap motherfucker out here. Like, I'm tired of these people capping on Instagram. Like, you telling them yourselves. If you committed a crime, leave it on social media.
Right?
And who watches Instagram Lives? I don't know any person
people
who watches
do.
people's
I don't
lives.
get it. I don't understand it at all. I don't find it entertaining.
It's all cops. They're all just waiting for people to
tell on themselves. Yeah.
Yep.
Like that fucking senator who stormed DC and live streamed on Facebook and like said his name. It was like Derek something.
Like one of the Paul brothers breaking into that mall and videotaping himself.
I was like, why? Like, you're just telling on yourself.
What are you doing?
Who raised these motherfuckers, honestly?
Why are you like this?
So he went to go cap on Instagram Live, tell it on himself. And before the suspected perpetrator was arrested, police had already identified 29-year-old Eric Ronald Holder Jr. as the suspect. Don't know why this other motherfucker was on Instagram capping, maybe to protect his friend. Don't know. Now, investigators believe that Eric Holder was a suspect, was also known as a rapper at the time. And the shooting was probably, as they first thought, motivated by just personal vendettas and beef. It was just that. So now, on April 2nd, 2019, Holder was arrested by the LA Police Department and was being held in solitary confinement for his own protection against the other people in the prison who like made threats against him because he shot Nipsey Hussle. It's like,
right.
Nipsey Hussle was giving so much backslid so much in LA, people are gonna have beef with you over that. On May 9th, a grand jury indicted Holder on 1 count of murder and 2 counts of attempted murder and assault with a firearm and 1 count of possession of a firearm by a felon because he already had a record. And on February 9th, 2020, Judge Robert Perry said that he hoped to begin the murder trial by early April, and things got kind of held up because of the whole coronavirus thing. But so now Hussle was buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Southern California, and his brother was appointed the primary administrator of his estate and controls everything. You know, while all this is happening in the courts and stuff like that, on the streets, people started talking about how the government plotted to kill Nipsey Hussle because of his beliefs in a certain doctor. Now, these were unfounded accusations, but it spread on Twitter and fucking Instagram like wildfire. But then the theory was that the government executed Nipsey Hussle to silence his upcoming documentary on Dr. Sabai. Do you know about him, Battle?
No, I don't.
Robert,
who was he?
Yeah, I've heard about him.
So
he's
weird. He's King Hotep. So now he is a Honduran herbalist named Alfredo Bowman, who was acquitted of criminal charges in the 80s for practicing medicine without a license in New York. According to the rumors, the documentary would just go around his believed cure of AIDS and HIV, which he is not being allowed by Big Pharma to be manufactured and get in the streets and save people. Nick Cannon also announced that he would finish Nipsey's work and posted photos of the doctor saying that the government killed Nipsey Hussle and that he's going to protect, because they want to protect us against Big Pharma, blah, blah. It's crazy.
I mean, the part of this that like bothers me the most is it so much is distracting from his legacy of like positive community building.
Yeah. It's like all this. So it continues. So the doctor claims that he cured patients of AIDS and HIV with an alkaline diet, which said could regulate the body's pH and acidity levels, and that your food intake can change up your body's composition and fight off AIDS and HIV. He was also arrested in 2016 for money laundering. So the man doesn't seem that trustworthy. So the idea that the government murdered a hip-hop artist over a herbalist documentary is pretty stupid, especially because it's not founded by anything. They have the guy who did it, who admittedly did it. Like, we know who did it. If the government sent out a hit squad against Nipsey Hussle in the afternoon at like 3 o'clock, I think people would have seen it.
Maybe. I say this because when I talk about my case, as you're talking about this, I'm just like, oh my God.
Now, granted, the government has carried out a number of like shitty but verifiable acts against powerful people. Well, not powerful people, but people in the United States. Like they poison alcohol.
Government has killed a lot of black leaders,
and just people in general. Like they poison alcohol during Prohibition. They covertly brung over like Nazi scientists, like the CIA's mind control experiments. Like the U.S. has done some fucked up shit. But executing Nipsey Hussle over Dr. Sabai's documentary is one conspiracy I just can't get behind because it's just
yeah. I got
my only exposure to that guy is the videos of dudes like standing in the like grocery stores, like picking up different vegetables and talking about like this will lower your pH, this will increase your pH, and that will cure like X disease that you have.
Your pH balance is not gonna cure AIDS. I'll tell you that right now.
You need an alkaline diet.
Like drinking some fucking what's it called? Fuji water isn't gonna save your life or cure any diseases. Put the smart water down. Go see an actual doctor. But yeah, and that's my conspiracy. That I do not believe it. And if you do believe it, let me know. I want facts. And not
bring the facts.
You're about to get a lot of like 30-minute YouTube videos.
Oh, please.
If they haven't been taken down by YouTube police.
Oh yeah, oh yes. What's her name again? Sarah, or whatever. The head of
YouTube's quick about taking off like conspiracy things like that could be super detrimental to normal people.
Well, all of YouTube,
they're not normal people.
Well, all of YouTube is just deep fake anyway. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's my case.
Well, that's great. That was a good one. I like it. I didn't know that about Nipsey Hussle either.
Yeah, a lot of people just don't know about his community efforts.
Yeah.
Who knows? It might be like Kendrick. Kendrick tried to keep all of his stuff like super hush hush when it came to like all the money he gave to schools and stuff, just because he didn't want it to be about him.
But yeah,
I didn't know Kendrick Lamar was doing that.
No, he's a great.
I love Kendrick
music. Yeah,
Lamar. He's one of my favorite artists.
But wait, before we go on to Battle's case, let's take a small break.
With no fees or minimums on checking and savings accounts, banking with Capital One is like the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Kind of like Taylor Swift choosing what to wear.
It's looking kind of chilly out today. I think I'll go with a cardigan.
Yep, even easier than that. And with our top-rated app, you can bank anytime, anywhere, making Capital One an even easier decision. That's banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
New consumer accounts only. Approval required. Terms apply. Capital One NA, member FDIC.
Start the new year right during the Xfinity Hello 2021 sales event. For a limited time, get Xfinity Internet and mobile together for only $35 a month for 12 months with a 1-year agreement. And mobile with our 1 gig wireless data option. Plus, get $250 back. This sale ends soon, so visit Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit an Xfinity store today. Internet offer requires paperless billing and autopay. Ends 1/11/21. Restrictions apply. New performance starter plus internet customers only. Equipment taxes, regulatory recovery, and other fees extra and subject to change. After term regular rates apply.
And we're back. Go ahead, tattooed man.
Oh, thank you. So, today, what are you looking at? Is your cat Hexy?
Yes.
Making noises?
Yes,
I didn't hear Hexy. So, I'm going to be talking about another musical artist. I'm going to be talking about a man who made modern soul music what it is today. And they actually referred to him as the father of modern soul. So today, everyone, sit back and enjoy the story about Sam Cooke. Born in 1931 in Clarksdale, Mississippi, to Reverend Charles Cooke and Mrs. Annie Mae Cooke, Sam Cooke was one of 8 children, and he grew up in the 30s, so you all know what that means, right? It was racist.
Oh, I was gonna say tetanus.
Except no, yeah, it was more racist than it is now, or it was more in your face. It was more in your face. I mean, I guess it's pretty in our face now, but whatever.
What the say? These parallels aren't really working.
Right? So, his father was a minister, and at a young age, he was actually exposed to music. He would often go to different churches to sing in the choir, and his music was influential in sounding beautiful while making really good protest lyrics. So there's a lot of protests in his lyrics. He was tremendously important to the black community as he would often sing and talk about black people in white America. He was making so much headway in his career as a singer. However, of course, the KKK did not want a Negro on white television and making changes. Side note, if Negro makes you uncomfortable, you can stop listening now because...
you got two uppity Negroes here.
Yeah, I know, because... Yeah, just deal with it. It's uncomfortable.
Also, shout out, oh my God, one of my favorite podcasts, Uppity Negras, who's a friend of the show.
Like that.
Yeah,
nice. Hello. So, he was actually reading so much into the radicalization of black people, even though, it's not too radical to think about black people being treated the same way. But J. Edgar Hoover was afraid that these black men in our community was going to overtake white America. Maybe J. Edgar Hoover should have been afraid of Sam Cooke because he was loved by everyone and he was pretty much in every white household. He was really good at making music. Everyone loved him. One thing that I think that was really dope about Sam was that he was so huge when he was alive that he was really one of the black people that actually started to wear his hair naturally. He was the one that actually got the afro to become mainstream, because prior to wearing an afro, black people wearing their hair naturally, they had to put perms in it and get it straight to make it presentable, not textured, super,
And people are only just now stopping the perm movement. Like the natural hair movement is very much new.
It's really weird because
we have been. It's mostly work shit too.
Yeah,
a lot of people. Your job would judge you over your hair. I remember I had to cut my hair before the army.
I was
I wasn't allowed to have dreads.
I had family. Yeah, it's so stupid because I've had family on my Filipino side that said I don't look like an engineer with dreadlocks, and it's things have changed. And
it's just hair.
It's just hair. So yeah, that happens.
Well, and you don't need to look like an engineer. You are an engineer.
Yeah, I'm a fucking engineer.
What do you mean?
What does an engineer look like? It looks like me.
It looks like me, bitch.
But yeah. So this is where things start to change for him. He was always around people like Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X,
aka Magneto.
Malcolm X was pretty dope. But some events were truly and unfortunately life-changing for Sam Cooke. So, a year after Muhammad Ali's monumental fight, Sam Cooke and Malcolm X ended up dead. It was said because of their political statements that It was said because of their political statements and their following that there were groups of informants that were around them all the time. And they weren't just informants, they're actually from the FBI. The FBI was watching everything that they were doing, talking about everything that they did. Not only was the FBI watching and listening, but the mob was as well. And so...
the mob?
The mob, yeah. The mafia. Because this is where it gets into the music industry.
Okay. Wait, the mob was in the music industry?
Oh, the mob has always been a part of the music industry. The music industry brings in so much money, so much revenue, and that's why you have royalties for certain songs. If you use songs that you're not supposed to on your content, you could get sued. But prior to
which is why we license all our own music.
Well, and that makes sense because they owned all the clubs and stuff for a long time. So the fact that they just dovetailed right into finding artists and producing them.
And it sucks because Sam Cooke, he recorded albums and didn't get released until after he died, the mid 80s, because of controversial lines in his songs. So yeah, he was tired of having to not being able to produce his own music or say what he wanted in his music, so he got together with other black musicians like Little Richard, and started a recording company, a producer company, a booking company all in one. he wanted to give back to the black community because there are a lot of black artists that were facing the same issues. They weren't able to freely speak and do what they want with their music. Again, at this time, Sam was disrupting the social norms of what a black man was trying to do by starting his own music company. And he was actually threatened by the mob. And the crazy thing about Sam was that whenever anyone came to talk to him, there were, like, he always kept his main dudes around. He didn't ever say, we got to go, we got to talk separate. He was like, whatever you can say to me, you can say it in front of my brothers. Like, he was like super transparent. And so there was a time where the mob came and talked to him about like the whole music thing. He was like, hey, they're like, you probably should lay back off this and like back off trying to do this. And Sam was like, no, fuck that, I'm going to do it. But the whole story behind his record company was pretty fucked up because it turned out that he got a really bad deal by the person that helped him create it. So this dude named Alan Klein was a person that worked with RCA when he was there, when he was working with RCA. And this dude, Alan, was like, hey, let's start a venture project called Tracy Limited, which was like the middle name of one of Sam's daughters. And that was the name of the company. So they ended up making Sam the CEO and everything was good, or so he thought. When the actual contracts came out and he read everything, it turns out Alan made himself the owner of the company. And of course, Sam was mad. He was actually going to fly to, I believe, to New York to confront Alan, but certain events the weekend before that Sam was going to fly out to confront this dude ended Sam's life. And according to the History Channel, on December 11th, 1964, Sam Cooke was found dead on the office floor of a motel called the Hacienda Motel. The murderer was found. The murderer was named Bertha Franklin. She shot him 3 times in the chest, and they ended up ruling the death a justifiable homicide.
That's a very strong
This
name
is based
for a
on
woman,
Bertha Franklin's story, who said that Sam had tried to rape Bertha, yeah. She's this older, like, middle-aged black woman that... It was just really weird, dude. But she says that he tried to rape a woman at a bar that he met and brought back to his hotel room or motel room. Before we keep going, here's what other people had to say, because although Sam Cooke was a womanizer, as far as like he slept with a lot of women even though he was married, he wasn't ever physically abusive to anyone. Like, everyone said that about him. Like, he wasn't a physical person that way. And I get it. It doesn't make him any better that he would use women for only sex. I think that's fucked up. Especially when he's married, if they don't have like an open relationship like that. But being violent wasn't the type of person that anyone said that he was. And that's according to people that knew him the most. So going back to that night that he was actually murdered, the police got a random phone call from an unknown woman saying that I was kidnapped and I was almost raped. And she also said, I don't know where I am, but I'm on the payphone. The phone call's really weird. She's like, I don't know where I'm at, but I'm on this payphone. The police department was like, okay, we're going to get you help. Don't hang up, stay where you are so we can trace the call or whatever. Because back in the day, you know, they couldn't just instantly say, this is where they are. They had to, like, try to figure it out or something. But before they could even trace, and as they were asking, what is your name, she just hangs up the phone. And that's the end of the call. Yeah, it's really weird. So the woman that he had met supposedly was a woman named Lisa Boyer, which that is her name, Lisa Boyer. And during her testimony, because she gives a testimony too, it was really weird. If you could watch it, you should. There's a documentary on Netflix called Remastered: The Two Killings of Sam Cooke. And you'll see what I mean by her testimony was just really weird, in my opinion. Especially around the times that this happened because there were a lot of black men getting charged with false accusations against them, and that has been brought out. And, you know, black men have either died or gone to prison for the rest of their life and died in prison, and people come out and say, yeah, I lied about that. So I think this might have happened here, but watch the documentary because the woman is so strange. She was wearing sunglasses, she had like a hood on while she was in the courtroom, and she had a lot of long pauses, but it wasn't like long pauses of being upset or hurt. It was just almost robotic. It sounded weird, and I'm not trying to
Maybe she was on like
victim
Quaaludes.
shame, whatever. Yeah, I don't know, dude. Yeah, I don't want to victim shame, but like it's just very, 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 very robotic, and I'm sorry if that offends anyone. A crazy thing about the murder, though, was that when Lisa, apparently Sam pushes her on the bed and says, we're going to talk or whatever. Sam goes into the bathroom, and when Sam goes in the bathroom, she I quote, she says, I knew he was going to rape me, so I took his pants and ran. And she took his pants and threw it out of the window. The pants is important because that same night that he met Lisa, he was flashing around a shit ton of cash, about $5,000 in cash at the club that he met her at. So yeah, she took the pants and threw them out of the window coincidentally. She said she ran out of the room, and when Sam came out of the bathroom because he had left her alone, he proceeds to try to chase her, but couldn't find her. So he goes to knock on, or starts banging on the manager's office, Bertha's office. And when Bertha opens the door, apparently he attacks Bertha because she knew that he tried to rape this girl, and the manager ends up fighting back. And she says she fought for her life and grabs her gun, and shoots him 3 times. Again, everyone in his circles that knew him knew that they were completely thrown off because they said that this wasn't who he was.
Oh.
So they made him off to be some type of super predator where he's never been aggressive towards anyone. Sometime before this incident, though, he did lose a son to drowning. And I know that he was super depressed, but again, people that knew him said that he wasn't that type of person. Now, before people get upset and saying, you know, like, oh, we're doing this and that, it turns out that...
Oh, you're doing this and that.
Yeah, you're doing this or that, saying all this stuff. Yeah. Lisa turns out to be a prostitute who was well known in the celebrity community, but she had trouble with the law, and she was like well known for like doing some shady things apparently. So they think that Lisa had her pimp outside the window waiting for the pants with the $5,000 in it. Not only that, but the officer manager apparently had a very long criminal history as well. Not only did Bertha have a long criminal history, it was said that she was part of the mafia or the mob. Like she was someone with some type of status. There were also rumors that Bertha was the actual pimp of Lisa and was on it. So
a madame,
right? It's so yeah, a madame. But so before Reddit, they just had like newspapers and stuff, and everyone was just freaked out. There's a lot of musicians freaked out, including people like Elvis Presley. There was a conspiracy that Ellen Klein was the one who actually had Sam Cooke killed. This was because the whole thing with the music company, but people said that that's probably unlikely because he didn't have that kind of power, even though he was key in the reasons on why the Beatles broke up. I don't know. Ellen Klein did have a lot of money, though. The black community had this whole conspiracy idea that they thought the music industry saw that Sam was starting to become too prominent and too powerful in the black community in the music industry and had to be taken out. And this idea, this conspiracy, was also backed by Elvis Presley, who thought the same exact thing. So it resonated with a lot of different people.
And this is before Elvis died tweeting on a toilet, right?
Yeah. So, at the end of the day, Sam not only lost his life, but he also lost everything that he built. His entire empire was pretty much taken from him. Being a black man in America, especially during that time, sucked. I mean, I think it still sucks, but for him and people that grew up around these times in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, it was even worse. So fast forwarding a little bit, after he died, there were nearly 200,000 people that came to pay respects and condolences when he died. They had an open casket and they had like a plexiglass over his body. People including Muhammad Ali. So more conspiracies around that was that they think his death was what caused the riots, the Watts riots in 65. There's also this whole conspiracy with his death and a lot of things that happened around his death. Some think that there was a lot more because Medgar Evers and Malcolm X were murdered and shot down not long after that. Well, Malcolm X was shot down not long after that, and it's crazy. What I think is beautiful, though, about Sam was that along with the people that he was with, he always stood up for injustice. It's all in his music. It's wild. If you haven't listened to Sam Cooke, you should listen to Sam Cooke. They stood up for, being treated as inferior. This is a beautiful thing because I think it has helped mold who we are as black people and continuing the fight against injustice and just to be seen as equal. To this day, to this day, people still think that this was some type of government inside job. They think that the government had something to do with it, along with the mob, all tied in. It's really crazy. They think that, even the district attorney knew what was going to happen, and it's so wild, and it's something to think about. Check out Sam Cooke and check out the circumstances behind his death. And that's my case. But before I actually go, I wanted to close with, I want people to realize and recognize the impact that these black figures had in shaping the privilege that, I feel like we have now with Bros Murder to be able to, we're able to talk about these types of cases. We're able to talk about injustices that black people and people of color have to go through. There have been so many people that have come before us that sacrificed their lives just so we can be seen as an equal today. And I can tell you from my experience, living day to day as a black man in a white world can be so tiring. It's so detrimental to my psyche at times, and I often find it difficult to have the energy to try to educate people, especially my white peers and colleagues, on why some things are okay and not okay. I shouldn't have to do that because I didn't come with a fucking handbook on how to be white, how to be a good white ally. I don't fucking know. Say something.
Emotional labor is draining, which is why bang that cash app if you want me to.
Right? But I think if we could learn to treat each other with dignity and respect, it would be so much easier. So if you're listening, please have conversations with your inner circles and try to get them to see why they should change. All it takes is one seed to be planted. And if you're talking about why black people and people of color need to be seen as people, and if they're thinking about that at the end of the night, you have already planted a seed and it's already growing. So thank you. And I hope Robert has something weird to say.
Something weird to say? Oh, no.
Yeah. So, yeah.
It's time for Robert's Weird of the Week.
So, before we get totally off of Sam Cooke, I took down some notes because I 100% will check out Sam Cooke. I have not heard his music before. But when we started off the story, I was trying to think in my head.
When you listen to him.
Oh, I do love a good cry, so I appreciate that. When we started the conversation,
some of his lyrics are so sad.
I was in my mind trying to think okay, was it a mob hit? Was it government hit? Was it, jilted lover, something? And I just had this aha moment halfway through. I'm like, It was all three. Everything was connected. They were all working together. It's a conspiracy. That's the name of the episode. That was a journey. So my case is from the 80s. 1988 is when the arrests took place. But the crimes and alleged crimes were years before that as well. It centers around this character, Lawrence E. King Jr., Larry King, not related to the television guy at all. Larry King Jr. was a black Republican in Nebraska. He was from Omaha, and in Omaha, he was in charge of what was the Franklin Credit Union. I say was in charge because the Franklin Credit Union is now defunct. It is gone, all as a result of King's management of it.
So it no longer was. It was.
Yes, it was. Past tense was. So everyone kind of knew that something was up because King reportedly made only $16,000 a year.
Okay.
Which, that's not a lot of money to live on at all, but he drove incredibly expensive cars, he owned multiple homes, he threw lavish parties, he spent over $10,000 a month on limousines some months.
He was shucking and jiving for that, wasn't he?
He was on that RNS, bro.
So people kind of often talked about I wonder where all that money's coming from. He must just be really thrifty, making that $16,000 stretch. But it was one of those things that the community, everybody joked about because it was just so blatant, and it just became this well-known thing that clearly something criminal is going on there, but what are we going to do about it? And you can probably guess that all of this money was coming from the credit union. So the credit union was a part of a mostly minority neighborhood in northern Omaha. So all of the money that was getting channeled in there, not only from members of the community, but also from politicians who donated money to boost the black community in Omaha, was actually all getting channeled directly into King's discretionary funds. And he was eventually charged with 40 counts, which included conspiracy, mail fraud, wire fraud, bank fraud, credit union embezzlement, making false entries in credit union records, and filing false tax returns. And none of that is too crazy.
He was busy.
But it starts to get a little bit crazy.
RNS, bro. He was on that RNS.
So, all said and done, he got away with about $38 million. Close to $40 million that he stole from his community, funds that were supposed to help his community, taken. So naturally, he got charges brought up to him. So that's where the Republicans come back in. He was so well connected. He threw parties, and at those parties, often you had very wealthy people as well as political figures, especially those in the Republican Party. When he was brought in on charges, he delayed his trial twice, I believe. He was then sent to a mental health institution to evaluate whether or not he could stand trial.
And you're smart enough to swoop a lot of money out of from people.
You're embezzling funds and committing tax fraud? Yeah,
Bitch,
I think you can stand trial.
I need to learn how to embezzle because...
Also, I just want to add this in. Also, let me just add this in. Democrats ain't shit either. Either one of y'all shit. So.
Ain't shit. But after he was chosen to fit to stand trial, and he took a plea bargain. So instead of the 40 counts that he originally was charged with, he pled to, I think, four of those counts, which reduced the sentence down to 15 years. Which, still a sizable amount of time, but it's a far cry from 40 counts of all this conspiracy. It gets even darker, though, because eventually we have three primary people that come forward to testify against him. We have Troy Bonner, Paul Bonacci, and Alicia Owen. So these are three people who all come forward with these kind of fantastical accounts of sexual trafficking that was involved with these parties, these political parties. They talked about themselves being involved with this trafficking and sexual abuse at the hands of not only Lawrence King Jr., but also his political friends.
Oh my.
And at the time, they were all, below the age of consent. They were not sex workers necessarily.
That's nasty.
There's some Epstein shit going on.
Yes, exactly. There was also another man who came forward. He did not testify, but he was interviewed indirectly in relation to this kind of pedophilia ring that King was being accused of. The guy was named Rusty Nelson, who was a former employee of King, and he stated in an interview, "King hired me to take pictures of adults and children in compromising positions. The pictures showed who the adults were and who the kids were. I gathered that the purpose was blackmail and it was political. The content of the pictures and the events surrounding them would be an instant end to a politician's career." So you have people who are talking about, he hired me to take photos of these children for politics, blackmail, whatever. You have 3 people who come forward and say, we were some of those children that were involved with this sex trafficking. There is a council that's put together to investigate these things, and they find that it's a hoax. They think it's all an elaborate hoax, and there was no trafficking going on at all, and it was just the financial crimes. The part of that makes me feel suspicious or start to get a little bit paranoid is if I think about the people that were in that room. You have the child victim, the person who organized the event, and the people who would have been harmed if information came out about it. And the people who would have been harmed are incredibly powerful, and, they control the DA and the judges, and they put together that council who's going to review whether or not these accusations have any water. And not only did their testimonies get thrown out, Alicia Owen was convicted on 8 counts of perjury and was sentenced to 3 to 5 years. So we can't really say that those 3 people that came forward were truly involved because their testimony were thrown out, but under suspicious circumstances. And there was the most recent legal action that took place in relation to this was in 2000. The Paul Bonacci, he had a lawsuit that was still pending against King to the tune of $1 million for pain and suffering involved with the sexual abuse. And it was originally struck down by a court, and then there was an appeal process involved. And for that to continue, King had to file some legal documents to continue with the appeal, but he chose to not do that, which resulted in a default on the lawsuit, which essentially means that the $1 million is owed to this person. So it's not necessarily an admission of guilt, but because he did not continue the legal process, he's kind of on the hook. So it's one of those things where he didn't say he did it, but he's not going to continue to defend himself in court about it. And we're left with, he got some time for stealing $40 million, and he's paid back, I think, less than $1,000 of that money to the community.
Is he still alive?
I believe so. I wasn't able to find any obituary.
He need his old ass beat, honestly.
Yeah. And honestly, if you read some of the testimonies, they do seem incredibly strange. They go into, talking about, Satanism and, crazy sacrifices and things going on like that, which just doesn't seem realistic. But when I think of, my perception of corrupt politicians, it is, huge parties where they engage in it with, sex workers, some of whom may be underage. That is not crazy to me.
Again, look at the whole Epstein shit.
Yes.
I didn't watch the whole Epstein stuff. I get so uncomfortable. I was talking with my baby sister about it, and she said it made her so mad. She just...
she's sick.
She said she was just fucking livid the whole time.
Yeah. So, Lawrence King Jr., bad dude, preyed on his community, then preyed on marginalized people within his community, potentially, all for money and Republican power.
That's so fucking weird.
Black Republicans, they're a different breed. Look at Candace Owens.
Bitch. Look at the hot
dry ass edges. The husk queen. She always looks dry.
Need to
She needs some fucking edge control. Anyway. That was our conspiracy episode. What do you have to plug? Alright, so we have coming up for plugs. We're doing some bracelets. The little wooden style one that you saw on the gram. We're going to be making some more of those for the show. So look out for that. We got those vids on the grams. check out the notes for merch that links to donate. Battle, do you have anything to plug?
No, I don't have anything to plug.
Robert, you got anything to plug?
Nope, I'm all good.
I was like, wait, what's going on?
Such a pregnant Paul.
It's like,
it looked like he was getting ready to say some shit. Like, you know what?
Like, wait, what are you gonna say?
I'm about to spill the tea. But yeah, that's the show. I hope you enjoyed the music. And
I don't think you said it at the beginning, by the way. You said we're Bros of Murder.
Oh shit.
Well,
welcome to Bros of Murder. We do true crime cases, color, weird cases and oddities, and music. Sorry I didn't say it at the beginning.
See ya, family.
Bye. End recording.
End recording.
Snap a photograph. If I'd have told it back when I'd have noticed that could been a total rapper, had to hold it back and let it. We figured all the bullshit out. I'm running home to spend the evening on the couch. I'm even eating better, need a vino, let it soak, and I could leave my phone around. I wrote an album out of all the emo feeling, found a better spot to lay my head. I'm feeling elevated, hearing random people talk to me. It's Helen Keller, I don't ever hear them. I don't never ever let a hater get me. I don't give a shit about it. Bentley met me many times before, but time it wasn't mine or yours. It's mine. The drama's over. I was sure about it. Out in ocean liners are the all the finest, all the art that I did caught my eye where I'm in.
With no fees or minimums on checking and savings accounts, banking with Capital One is like the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Kind of like choosing Charles Barkley in a pickup game.
We'll take Barkley.
Ha! First pick. Sorry, kids.
Yep, even easier than that. And with our top-rated app, you can bank anytime, anywhere, making Capital One an even easier decision.
Okay, here's the plan. Pass me the ball every time.
This is banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
New consumer accounts only. Approval required. Terms apply. Capital One NA member FDIC.
Here's 3 great reasons to get the new Samsung Galaxy S21 5G at T-Mobile. 1, it's free for both current and new customers when you trade in an eligible device. 2, T-Mobile's the leader in 5G coverage. So 3, you can unleash 5G speeds in more places with your new phone. Get the new Galaxy S21 free at T-Mobile, the leader in 5G coverage.
Phone via 24 monthly bill credits plus tax. If you cancel credit, stop and balance on required finance agreement may be due. Contact us. Qualifying credit and consumer plan required. See details at T-Mobile.com.